Commonwealth Bank's valuation hits $250 billion for the first time. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have their moment in the sun, and pubs and bottle store owner Endeavour warns of soft sales. Plus, the latest on markets, in politics and the US election. Welcome to Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. It's Tuesday, the 12th of November, 2024. I'm Adam Lang, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Adam.
Sean, the main story this morning, and it is a doozy. Commonwealth Bank's share price hit $150 yesterday, albeit briefly, but for a few minutes, the lender became the first Australian company to top the $250 billion mark.
Not bad at all. Just after 11 a.m, it hit $150.34 a share, pushing the group's market capitalisation to just over $250 billion. No local company has ever hit that level. In the end, Commonwealth Bank closed at $149.79. That gives it a market capitalisation of $249.89 billion. Despite most professional investors having a sell recommendation on the stock, it's risen 25% in the past 6 months, not far off 50% over the past year. It's not even the best bank over the past 12 months. In fact, Westpac has that one at 50%, or it's more than 50% Westpac. National Australia Bank's up about 40%, ANZ's up about 27%. You might as well throw Macquarie Group in. That's more of an investment bank than a retail bank, but it's up about 40%. Now, I don't want to rain on the parade of Commonwealth Bank here because it is quite the milestone to hit the $250 billion mark. But, you know, Adam, if it was in the S&P 500, it would be ranked about the 60th largest company, and it's about 5%. It's about 4.5% the size of the Wall Street's largest company, which is Nvidia.
Well, that puts things nicely back into perspective, Sean.
It does. It does.
Sean, the market seems to be a story of over and under performance, highlights and lowlights, at least among the largest companies, with not too many hovering in between.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So the S&P ASX 200 is up 18% over the past year. A very, very strong 12 months now. A huge amount of that, about half of that actually came in the final couple of months of last year. But that aside, if you take the top 30 stocks, the only companies to be up about 18% or thereabout, or even within that range, are CSL, QBE, Coles and Cochlear. So that means you've got 26 other stocks. 13 of those 26, 50% of them have done much, much better. And 13 or 50% of them, 13 of the 26, have done much, much worse. Best of the top 30 is Imaging Group Pro Medicus. It's up nearly 140% over the past year. A year ago, it was nowhere near a top 30 stock. It is well and truly there now. Others that have returned more than 50% in the past 12 months include WiseTech Global, Goodman Group, Aristocrat Leisure, ResMed, and Fisher & Paykel Healthcare. The other side, the worst of the top 30, Woodside, it's off 25%, as in it's down 25% over the past year. Other companies to be worth less now than a year ago, BHP, Fortescue Metals, Telstra, down about 2%, Rio Tinto, Woolworths, and Santos. So there's a word there which I can't think of how to say it. It's a bifurcated? Bifurcated. It's a bifurcated market. Lots of winners, lots of losers, and not much in between.
I love that. 140% growth at the top. You got minus 25 at the bottom and 18 in between. 18 average in between.
Yeah.
What a spread.
Yeah, and most aren't sort of up there. I don't think I've ever seen a market where there are so many overperformers, so many underperformers, and so few kind of medians.
Yeah. So, Sean, amongst all of that, how did the local markets perform yesterday?
Well, the S&P ASX 200 ended up down about 0.33% to 8,266 points. Basically, it was about the miners yesterday. A fairly underwhelming response to Chinese stimuli over the weekend sent the price of iron ore lower. That didn't help the miners. Fortescue Metals finished down more than 7%. BHP was off 4%. Rio was down 3%. The best of the large caps yesterday, Goodman Group, just keeps going. That company, WiseTech Global and REA. A little bit of corporate news around Incitec Pivot's share price jumped slightly despite recording a $311 million loss in the year to the end of September. Now, the loss was due to the impairment of the group's fertiliser business, which it's been trying to sell for quite some time now. DP World Australia made a bid for small caps business Silk Logistics. Its share price, that's Silk Logistics share price, jumped 40%. And PE Group Genesis Capital, it has been trying to buy one of the best named companies ever, the dental company Pacific Smiles. It upped its offer again yesterday. Don't know that we'll get there yet, but I just like talking about Pacific Smiles as a dental company, Adam.
And Sean, speaking of on the up, Bitcoin has risen to more than US $81,000 a unit, highlighting the excitement about the Trump era among crypto traders.
Yes, a golden era for cryptos. I reckon the digital asset industry spent an estimated $100 million backing crypto-friendly candidates across the US during the elections last week. I reckon they've already made their money back. Dogecoin, a meme crowd favourite promoted by Elon Musk, it's done particularly well also. Now, Donald Trump has vowed to make the US the centre of the digital asset industry, and Bitcoin's up 93% this year. Way better than equities and way better than gold. Bitcoin's ETFs, which were introduced early in the year, are surging. BlackRock's iShare Bitcoin Trust, which I think is the biggest, certainly among the biggest, it is posting inflows, daily inflows of almost $1.4 billion according to Bloomberg. Huge flows of money for Bitcoin at the moment.
Is that a crypto plunge, Sean?
Well, it's the opposite, isn't it? Well, I see what you mean. It could be a crypto plunge.
Yeah, you plunge your money in.
Yes, yeah, maybe. Crypto plunge.
It's not a good term for it, is it?
No. I don't know what a plunge that makes a soar. I don't know what it is.
Rush? Like a gold
rush. That's better. A crypto rush. Yeah, crypto rush.
Okay, good. We'll settle on that. Immediately after the show, stay listening for Sean's chat with one of the country's best-known investors, Mr. Chris Cuff. Sean, tell us about it.
Yes. Well, he was Chief Executive of Colonial First State. He also was Chief Executive of Challenger and Chair of UniSuper. Great believer in philanthropy, Chris. He founded the Australian Philanthropic Services and Third Link Investment Managers. Both of those have raised millions of dollars for charities. So we ask him about those, what motivates him to do it, how they're performing. It's just a great chat with Chris, who anyone who has taken a close interest in the investment community in Australia knows that he's kind of one of the best of his generation.
Brilliant. We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, Treasurer Jim Chalmers has warned that Australia will suffer from lower economic growth and higher prices because of the Donald Trump policy suite.
That's right. Australia won't escape the impact of a US-China trade war if Trump goes ahead with it, particularly if he imposes big tariffs on Chinese goods. Dr. Chalmers said that the floating exchange rate and independent central bank will mitigate some effects of the trade war locally, and the impact globally will be much greater rather than here in Australia. The fear is that the trade war between the US and China will basically slow the Chinese economy. That's where we will get hit hardest, lower demand for Australian goods. Analysis from Federal Treasury done in the lead up to the US poll suggests a small reduction in output, that's in growth here in Australia, and additional price pressures. Now, inflation in Australia might be coming down, but prices are considered too high. It's a complaint heard in the US as well. And on Sunday, Australia's Health Minister Mark Butler said a lesson for Labor out of the US election was that voters want to see their government's focus on cost of living.
Sean, and speaking of that political focus, the latest news poll shows that primary support for the coalition is rising and opposition leader Peter Dutton is getting closer, but still remains behind Anthony Albanese as preferred Prime Minister.
The poll, which was in the Australian newspaper, shows the coalition's primary vote has risen 2 percentage points to 40%. That means the coalition can be competitive in the next election due by the middle of May. AOP's primary vote was also up 2% to 33%. The losers in this were the independents and some of the minor parties like One Nation. Now, it may seem unusual that the coalition's primary vote's 40% and ALP's 33%. And we're now talking about the coalition being competitive. It's just that many of the so the Greens get a lot of primary votes, for example, and their preferences flow to Labor. That's what that's all about. On a two-party preferred basis, 51 to 49% to the coalition in terms of preferred Prime Minister. Anthony Albanese is still got quite a gap there. He's 45%. Peter Dutton's at 41%.
Sean, the owner of Dan Murphy's and BWS liquor stores, has warned profits will be lower in the final 6 months of this year, with promotional offerings hitting their margins.
Endeavour Group, which owns 1,725 stores, warned profits are lower as the group's increasing promotions to lure in customers. That's hitting those margins. Also, consumer spending's weak. We know that, and higher costs are hurting the company as well. Outgoing Chief Executive Officer Steve Donohue said it's challenging to record sales growth in the current environment. Now, Endeavour's share price was down 5% yesterday. It's down 14% this year. Endeavour owns bottle shops plus pubs and hotels around the country. It was spun out of Woolies in 2021. The good news from yesterday, the pubs are looking okay. In fact, Christmas bookings are already at 54% of capacity. Adam?
Sean, more details have emerged over this really dramatic detention of Resolute Mining's CEO in Mali.
Yes, his name is Terry Holohan. He and two executives were arrested on Friday and detained by the country's anti-corruption and financial crimes unit. In a statement, Resolute Mining yesterday said the executives were in Mali to, and I quote, hold discussions with the mining and tax authorities regarding general activities related to the company's business practices in Mali, in addition to progressing open claims which have been made against Resolute and which the company maintains are unsubstantiated. The Australian is reporting that the Mali government may want between $75 million and $250 million from Resolute Mining. Malian President Assimi Goïta, who has just promoted himself to be a five-star general, has introduced a new mining code that allows the state to acquire up to 30% on projects, requires all foreign companies to renegotiate existing contracts. It sounds like Terry Holohan and the other executives have been caught up in that.
Sean, Shadow Infrastructure Minister Bridget McKenzie said Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has been influenced by his personal and financial relationship with Qantas.
She was speaking at a conference yesterday. Ms. McKenzie suggested that some of the things that have gone wrong in the industry, higher prices, cancellations, delays, are the government's fault. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in recent weeks has been accused of being too close to Alan Joyce, claims that he sought upgrades, though he said that actually never happened. Having said that, Bridget McKenzie, she can say that, but she's actually under fire herself. She failed to declare 16 free business class flight upgrades from Qantas and Virgin Australia over recent years.
Sean, struggling battery minerals group Liontown Resources is scaling back production plans at its Kathleen Valley lithium mine, and that's just 3 months after opening the operation.
The company has cut its production plans and in 2 years' time will be producing about two-thirds the amount of lithium it had forecast. That's on the back of tumbling lithium prices. CEO Tony Ottaviano said when market conditions change, companies need to change as well. They need to adapt, and that's basically what's happened here. The lithium price has fallen out of bed, hence Liontown is scaling back a bit. He said he wants the company to focus on higher margin lithium. Liontown is backed by Gina Rinehart. It does have some pretty good offtake deals with Ford and Tesla and South Korea's LG Energy, but it really has struggled. While the share price was up 1% on the news yesterday, it's off about 50% this year.
Sean, in international news, the Washington Post is reporting that Donald Trump has spoken to Vladimir Putin and urged the Russian president not to escalate the war in Ukraine.
How do you reckon it starts, Adam? It's like, Vlad, it's the Don here.
The red phone rings.
Yeah.
Vlad, Donald, Vlad. How you going?
Yeah. It comes up on Vlad's mobile phone. It's got Donald Trump. And Vlad's like,
a picture of Donald Trump.
I knew this was going to happen at some point. Off we go.
I better pick up.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the first call between the two men since the US presidential poll. The Washington Post says Trump reminded Putin of the US's sizable military presence in Europe. I wonder how that threat goes down. Who knows? Apparently they're
just an FYI.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we got a few 100,000 people there. Keep it in mind. Apparently, they discussed the goal of peace on the European continent, and they expressed an interest in follow-up conversations. It will be interesting to see how that goes. The other thing about this story, which I don't understand, so Donald Trump also spoke to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Apparently, Elon Musk was on that call.
Right.
Why would Elon Musk be on a call between the president of the US and Volodymyr Zelensky from the Ukraine? I don't think it's about selling Teslas.
I've only got one idea on that, and that is Starlink. You know, Elon Musk's satellite link for communications. That has been really important through some parts of this war.
Fair enough. That might be the thing.
Apart from that, Sean, don't know.
I'm not sure that the president-elect with a business leader, I just don't know whether that's actually a good look. Anyway, a final story. Adam, lead us off. I like this story.
Okay, Sean. Bhutan, the Himalayan kingdom that brought the world the concept of gross national happiness, is set to build, get this, a mindfulness city.
Yes, I hope I've got the pronunciation right here. The Glefu Mindfulness City will lie in a special administrative region with separate rules and laws that will aim to be an economic corridor linking South Asia to Southeast Asia, according to officials. The city will promote walking and cycling to reduce emissions. This is according to Reuters. It'll promote green spaces for meditation and relaxation. It will promote mindfulness-based education, public community activities, healthcare and wellness centres, and ecotourism. I just feel better talking about it.
Do you reckon it'll have its own currency, Sean, like a mindfulness currency?
Yeah, I wonder what sort of like like a happiness dollar or something like that.
How do you buy stuff in mindfulness land?
Yeah. And does the whole concept of greed and fear, close to us, our hearts here, does that run in this city or not?
Would we be allowed in?
No, I think that's what that means. We're not getting a run.
That makes me want to do it.
True. I don't know.
Moving on from Mindfulness Kingdom, Sean, up next is the Fear and Greed Daily interview with investor Chris Cuff. And then at noon today, get ready for the latest release of another episode of Ask Fear and Greed. That's up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your favourite podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much, Adam.
It's Tuesday, the 12th of November, 2024. Make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook, and have a great day.